How's it going, guys? It's Najam. Welcome back to another video. Now in this video I'm going to review the FLYCOAY U310 14-inch Android 14 tablet. Now this is a really big tablet and this has more than 32GB of RAM and it is absolutely just bonkers. I will leave affiliate links in the description, so please check them out. Now let's get started with the specifications. So yes, this is a really big tablet. We'll start off with the SoC. This is running the Helio G85, which has 8 cores, and as you can see they are Cortex A75 and A55, so they are pretty decent. And it's also got the Mali G52 MC2 GPU, and you can see that this has 12GB of RAM as well as a speaker amplifier built into it. And so the actual amount of RAM that this tablet has is 12GB. It's got a 14-inch display with a resolution of 1920 by 1200, so it has an aspect ratio of 16:10, and it's running at 60Hz. Now it does also have 256GB of storage, of which you get about 200GB, which is pretty decent, especially for a cheaper tablet like this. And if you go over to the battery section, you can see it does have a 11,580 mAh battery. Now this will last you easily one whole day if you're doing heavy usage, so that's pretty good. It does also have Wi-Fi 5. Now I believe you can put a micro SD card into this and it goes up to 1TB. You do have 2 SIM card slots and one of the SIM card slots is shared. And the price for this tablet is in the £300 range. You can get this for £250, which in my opinion is quite a bit of money for this tablet, but you do get a big display. And as you can see, it does have a pretty nice design. It's reminiscent of the old iPhones, and you do have the SIM card slot. You have the Type-C port over here. Now this Type-C port does support OTG and it's running at USB 2 speed. So you're going to get about 25 megabytes per second writing speed. So I did move some stuff into this tablet with the USB drive. You have the volume up and down buttons as well as the power button, and it does have a headphone jack, which sounds pretty nice. And you do have the cameras on the back end. As you can see, the design is pretty nice. Now this is not an AI camera, it's just there for design. We'll talk about the cameras in just a moment. Now this tablet does have 4 speakers. As you can see, 2 of the grills down here and the other 2 are on the top. Now on the front you do have the front facing camera, and also you do have the 14-inch display. Now overall I do actually like the design of this tablet. It looks pretty nice. Also the build quality on this tablet is very nice. It's built out of metal. The whole housing is built out of metal, so it's very sturdy. Very nice, very well built tablet actually. It's quite a bit of a step up compared to the cheaper tablets from FLYCOAY. Okay, let's talk about the 14-inch display on this tablet. It's a pretty big display in my opinion. For a tablet, it's a big display. You have a resolution of 1920 by 1200. It has an aspect ratio of 16:10, which is pretty nice. Although I would have preferred 16:9 because it works better for video. It's IPS, and so you do get very nice viewing angles, but it's not going to be as good as OLED. But it's a pretty nice display. Now the only thing with this display is because it's LCD. When you compare it to an OLED display, it does look muted compared to the OLED displays. They do look more saturated and more vibrant. But the display is very nice. It is running at 60Hz, and I'll talk about that later on in this video. Now let's talk about ease of use. This is not a very easy tablet to use because it's actually really heavy. I don't know how much it weighs, but it is very heavy to use. And it's so heavy that the case that it comes with, I did use this initially, but then I stopped using it because it just doesn't hold in the stand. It just slips off after a while. So maybe it's the design of the case, but I think it's probably just the tablet is just really heavy. So that is something to keep in mind. It is a very heavy tablet. It doesn't even work properly with the built-in with the provided case. So this tablet is running Android 14, and it's actually very nice. The performance is very good as well because of these specifications. If I go into settings, memory expansion, now over here you can see that you can it does come with extended memory. Now this tablet does have 12GB of actual RAM, but you can extend it by using virtual memory, and it goes up to 24GB, which is just ridiculous. Now in my opinion, it's just a bit much because you do get 256GB of storage. Of that you get only about 200GB to use. I think this is a bit over the top, but it is what it is. Now the Android system is very stock. There's nothing to it, nothing special to it. It's Okay, there we go. So there is one book that I found. The application switcher is dodgy. But that's all I found. There haven't been any software updates, and I don't think anybody should be expecting any, because I don't think you're going to get any updates with this tablet. Okay, let's talk about the performance. You do get really good specifications. They're mid-range, but the performance is actually pretty good. You can actually play videos at 1080p 60 fps, and this is a 1080p display, and it's a big display. I think most people are going to use this for media consumption, and for that it works really well. And in YouTube you can play 1080p 60 without a problem, which is very nice. This is at 1 times the speed. I did play a 1440p video at 60 fps, and there were some frame drops, but it was smooth at certain times. Now that being said, I'm not going to recommend this for 1440p 60 fps video playback. Overall, this is a very fast tablet. You can just tell from the user interface. Usually when you get cheap tablet, it just stutters a lot, even with the interface, but this thing is very smooth. It's got enough power for that. Now I did run some benchmarks. Let's go ahead and have a look at the benchmarks. So I ran the wildlife benchmark, and it got 701 score, which is actually pretty bad in my opinion. It's basically at 0. Not a very good score on wildlife. Now let's look at Geekbench 6. You do have a single core score of 411 and a multi-core score of 1449, which is very low. And also the GPU, I did test out, you do get 1065. so the GPU is the Mali G52, and I mean this is what it got. It's a pretty low score in my opinion, and as you can see it's actually right at the bottom of the list. So if you get any of these devices on this list, you will get better performance from as far as the GPU goes. And same thing with the CPU, you get pretty low score in my opinion, and as you can see it's not even on the list, but I suppose that's the top list. And multi-core performance, so benchmarks, it's not really, in my opinion, it's not performing really well. So let's talk about gaming. I think some people are going to be interested in gaming on this tablet. Now I did take 25 minutes to compile Genshin Impact shaders, which is a milestone in my opinion, and it is playable, but only really if you play casually, because on the lowest settings you do get less than 30 fps, and it's not really smooth. At times it is, but other times, most of the time, it's not even running at 30 fps, and so I don't recommend this. But you can play the game casually after it loads in, which takes a very long time. But on a display like this, it doesn't look good, and it doesn't play the best either. Now another game is Sky Children of Light, and this tablet actually performed pretty well. I mean, it did look smooth enough. Because it's a casual game, I can't recommend it for that, but the game doesn't look good because it's running at a really low resolution and everything. I don't know if the game's like that, but like it's running really low resolution, although it is smooth enough to play in the casual games. Now one thing that does surprise me is actually emulation. Emulation on this device is actually pretty good. I'm just gonna skip through some of the emulations I can do really well. Obviously with Game Boy Advance, this can play Game Boy Advance no problem. Nintendo DS also 100%, as well as Nintendo 64 run really well. I can't really find any fault in it. And also PS1, if you use the lower resolutions, because the GPU is limited, you can get a really good performance. Now surprisingly, you can also play PSP, but there is one big caveat, and I don't know why this is the case. I believe it might be CPU limited. The games, even when I played at 1 times the resolution on PSP in PPSSPP emulator, they didn't go above 54 fps or 55. It hovered around there, and you can increase the resolution of the game and it still stays the same. So the GPU is not the bottleneck. Now 60 fps games on the PSP, you can hear the stuttering in the audio and everything. You can play them, but it's better to play the 30 fps locked games. You can play them really well, and it plays them 100% even at 3 times the resolution, so that's very nice. So PSP, yes, it can do it. Some games you're gonna find some stuttering and everything, but the performance is much better than the cheaper 10-inch tablets that you get from Amazon, from so many other companies. Now let's talk about the cameras. We'll talk about the specifications of the cameras. You have an 8 megapixel front facing camera with a 34mm equivalent lens and this aperture of f2.8, and On the rear, you do get a 13 megapixel camera with a 24mm lens, and it also has an aperture of f2.8, and this camera does have autofocus. Now let's talk about the camera quality. So it comes with this generic application which is called camera, and this is the rear camera. It looks absolutely atrocious, and this is in decent lighting. You can't really use this at all. I mean, you can take pictures with it. I did take one picture, and obviously you can see this picture, and this is I believe without HDR, and this is with HDR. The only thing I've noticed is the shading on the power board thingy over there. You can see it does get clipped more in the when that's not HDR. So it's definitely improving dynamic range, but I mean the quality of it is like absolute garbage, in my opinion. It is absolute garbage. The rear camera, even though it's 13 megapixels, is absolute garbage. Now, to my surprise, however, even if you go into video mode, and this is just a basic application that comes with, as you can see, it just doesn't have enough FPS to get a good video. You're gonna need a lot of light, and still, even then, it is gonna be really stuttery. Now, to my surprise, however, the front-facing camera is actually pretty decent. For meetings, I can sort of recommend this tablet. It's actually pretty decent. Now, I'm not going to be able to comment on the microphone on this because I'm not going to record with it. But you can plug in Bluetooth headphones or even a headset with the headphone jack on the corner. So it will work that way. And also, if I go into picture mode, on this front-facing camera, it's actually pretty good, as you can see. Well, I mean, as far as motion goes, it's actually pretty nice. So for meetings, I do recommend it. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's actually doable. You can definitely do meetings on this tablet. And also, as far as office work goes, you can do side-by-side split application, and you got really good space on that. And for office work, it's actually very quick, so it will work fine in that regard. So no problems there. Now let's talk about the speakers. This has 4 speakers, and it's also got a speaker amplifier built inside. Now it does get very loud, and it does have good sound. I find it does sound a little bit on the bright side, but you definitely have a very good sound from this tablet. I do enjoy it.
Jacob Fry, you might just be right.
But shall we?
Yes, let's. Onward to London.
The battery life is good, in my opinion. I mean, it has a big battery, but it's not going to last you a whole week or something. It's going to get you about 2-3 days, and then you're going to have to put it back on charge. So it's pretty good battery life. Now, I'll talk about what I like about this and what I dislike about this. So I do like the display. I do like the quality of this tablet, and the way it feels. This is a generic tablet, but the performance is very nice as well. I do like the performance, and the only thing I don't like about this tablet is actually the weight of this tablet. It's actually very heavy to use. I mean, it's just a very heavy tablet, and it makes it annoying to use. I don't really want to carry it around because it's just very heavy. Now the display is also only 60 Hz, and for a display this big, if you do hold it and use it as a tablet, which is going to be very close to your face, you can see it just looks very jittery compared to 120 FPS or something like that. And I think that's much more important on a display this size. So to conclude, this is a very good tablet. The performance is solid. It's amazing for watching videos and watching movies with the quad speakers and the display. It is a very nice experience. For media consumption, this is a really good tablet. Also for casual gaming, this is actually pretty nice. You can connect Bluetooth controllers and do emulation, which is very nice on this. It does have its limits, but for the price, it's actually really good. So for the price, I think you are paying for the big display. But in my opinion, if you look on the used market, you can get a really good Samsung tablet, and I guarantee you it's going to perform much better than this. It might be a little bit smaller, but it will definitely be a much better tablet, and it's going to give you a much better experience as well. The display may not be 14 inches, but I'm going to be honest with you, this tablet, while it is very nice to use, it's just too heavy. It's really heavy, and I don't really want to use it for a really long time. I do use the case or have a different stand which I use, and I just put it on the side and then watch it kind of like a TV, and in that sense it does work really well. So if you guys do have any questions, ask me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in another video.